The mountain observatory was eerily quiet at 3 a.m. Alex Harlow rubbed his tired eyes, the blue light of his computer screen the only illumination in the dimly lit control room. For 6 months, he had been tracking an anomalous signal from the Cygnus constellation, a pattern too regular to be natural, yet unlike anything in the astronomical databases. Just a few more calibrations, he muttered to himself, adjusting the radio telescope's parameters. The coffee beside him had long gone cold, but he took a sip anyway, grimacing at the bitter taste. The signal had appeared suddenly 3 months ago, a repeating pattern that defied explanation. His colleagues had suggested everything from equipment malfunction to quantum noise, but Alex remained convinced it was something more. Tonight, the signal was stronger than ever. As the computer processed the latest data set, Alex leaned back in his chair. He would rest his eyes for just a moment. When Alex opened his eyes, he wasn't alone. A figure stood by the window, silhouetted against the starlit sky. Slender and tall, taller than any human he'd ever seen, with an otherworldly grace to its movements. For a bizarre moment, Alex thought someone had let a dancer into the observatory. "Hello, Alexander Harlow," the figure said, its voice melodic and strangely accented. Alex jumped to his feet, knocking over his coffee cup. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" The figure turned, and moonlight illuminated features that sent a shock through Alex's system. Her face, if it could be called a face, was humanoid but unmistakably alien. Iridescent skin shimmed with subtle patterns that seemed to shift with her breathing. Large, almond-shaped eyes reflected the starlight like opals. "My name is Lyra," she said. "I've been watching you for some time." Alex backed away, his heart hammering. "This isn't possible." "Your signal reached us," Lyra continued, gesturing toward his computer. "Or rather, you finally detected ours. We've been trying to establish contact for decades." "We?" Alex managed, his scientific mind racing to process what his eyes were seeing. "My people. The Celestians." She moved closer, her movements fluid and hypnotic. "I am an envoy, sent to make first contact." Alex glanced at the emergency phone on the wall, calculating the distance. "You're afraid," Lyra observed. "That's understandable. But I assure you, if harm were my intention, we wouldn't be having this conversation." Something in her tone calmed him slightly. He studied her more carefully now. Her clothing, if it was clothing, seemed to merge with her skin, a shifting fabric that reflected colors beyond the human spectrum. "Why me?" Alex asked finally. "Why not?" "I don't know, the government? The United Nations?" Lyra made a gesture that might have been the equivalent of a smile. "Bureaucracies are inefficient. We needed someone who would see, who would listen." "You've been listening very carefully, haven't you, Alex?" The familiarity with which she used his name sent a shiver down his spine. "What do you want?" "We need your help," Lyra said simply. "Our world faces a threat we cannot solve alone. We've been studying humanity for generations, and we believe your species possesses something ours lacks, something essential to our survival." "And what would that be?" Alex asked, his scientific curiosity finally overcoming his fear. Lyra's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Creativity. Imagination. The human capacity to make intuitive leaps that defy logic." She extended a hand with long, delicate fingers. "Will you hear our request, Alexander Harlow? It will change everything you think you know about the universe." Outside, the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, illuminating the impossible visitor who had come from the stars with a request that would indeed change everything. The observatory's control room seemed to shrink around them as Lyra's presence filled the space. Alex paced nervously, occasionally glancing at the alien envoy who stood with perfect stillness by his equipment. "Let me get this straight," he said, running fingers through his disheveled hair. "You've traveled across, What, hundreds of light years to ask for my help? 427 of your light years, Lyra corrected. And not you specifically, initially. We sought any human receptive to our signal. You were simply the one who noticed. Alex laughed, a short, nervous sound. Lucky me. Lyra tilted her head, the gesture oddly bird-like. You don't consider this fortunate? I'm still not convinced I haven't fallen asleep and this is all some bizarre dream from too much caffeine and isolation. Your species often retreats to denial when confronted with paradigm shifts, Lyra observed. Perhaps this will help. She extended her hand, palm up. A small sphere of light materialized above it, expanding to form a three-dimensional projection of a star system. Alex recognized nothing familiar in its configuration. Our home, Lyra explained. The Celestian system. 7 planets orbiting a binary star. The projection zoomed in on the third planet, a swirling orb of blues and purples. And this is Celestia itself. Alex stepped closer, professional fascination momentarily overriding his apprehension. The projection showed structures that seemed to grow organically from the landscape, a civilization in perfect harmony with its environment. It's beautiful, he admitted. It is dying, Lyra replied, her melodic voice tinged with something Alex recognized as sorrow. The projection shifted, showing one of the binary stars pulsing erratically. Our primary star has become unstable. It's entering a phase unknown in your stellar classification system, a quantum fluctuation cascade. That's not possible under standard stellar physics, Alex said automatically. Hence our problem, Lyra replied. Our science cannot explain or predict its behavior. In approximately 63 of your Earth days, the fluctuations will reach critical threshold. When that happens, the projection showed the star flaring violently, washing the third planet in deadly radiation. Total extinction, Alex whispered. Yes. The projection disappeared as Lyra closed her hand. We've evacuated most of our population to colony worlds, but our home planet contains biological and cultural systems that cannot be replicated. We need a solution, not an evacuation. Alex frowned. I'm an astronomer, not an astrophysicist. And even the best astrophysicists on Earth wouldn't have solutions for a stellar phenomenon we've never observed. We don't need your science, Lyra said, stepping closer. We need your perspective. She was close enough now that Alex could see the intricate patterns flowing beneath her translucent skin, like bioluminescent currents in a living ocean. Our civilization is millions of years old, she continued. We've perfected logic, efficiency, prediction. But we've lost something in the process, something humans possess in abundance. Creativity, Alex remembered her earlier words. The ability to make conceptual leaps. To imagine solutions where none seem possible. Lyra's eyes fixed on his, intense and alien. Our scientists have reached the limits of their thinking. We need someone who thinks differently. And you want me to come with you? Alex asked incredulously. To your world? Yes. As our guest. Our consultant. Our bridge. Alex turned away, mind racing. This is insane. I have a life here. Research. Colleagues. I can't just disappear to another planet. Time flows differently between our worlds, Lyra said. What would be months there would be mere weeks here. And we can return you to this exact moment, if necessary. Time manipulation? Now you're really stretching credibility. Says the man speaking with an alien, Lyra observed, with what might have been a hint of humor. Despite himself, Alex smiled. He moved to the window, looking out at the pre-dawn sky. Somewhere up there was Lyra's home, facing extinction. What would I need to bring? He asked quietly. Only yourself, Lyra replied. And this. She touched his temple gently. Your unique human mind. Alex felt a strange warmth where her fingers had brushed his skin. Something electric and foreign, yet not unpleasant. When would we leave? Now, Lyra said simply. Our vessel awaits. Alex took a deep breath. Everything in his scientific training told him this was impossible, irrational, potentially dangerous. Yet something deeper, the same intuition that had made him a successful astronomer, told him this was the opportunity of a lifetime. All right, he said finally. I'll help you. Or try to, at least. For the first time, Lyra's expression changed to something Alex could almost interpret as relief. Thank you, Alexander Harlow, she said. You may have just saved a civilization. Outside, the stars were fading as dawn approached, all except one unusually bright point of light that seemed to pulse with an intelligence of its own. Alex had barely enough time to send a hasty email to his department head claiming a family emergency before Lyra led him outside the observatory. The cool mountain air bit at his skin as they walked away from the building and into the surrounding forest. Where exactly is your ship? Alex asked, breath-forming clouds in the pre-dawn chill. Close, Lyra replied, her own breath invisible. We cannot risk detection by your military satellites. They emerged into a small clearing where nothing appeared out of the ordinary, until Lyra raised her hand. The air shimmered, and suddenly a vessel materialized before them. Unlike the flying saucers of human science fiction, this craft was organic in appearance, an elongated teardrop of iridescent material that seemed to breathe in the starlight. Adaptive camouflage? Alex whispered in awe. Something like that, Lyra said with that gesture he was beginning to recognize as her version of a smile. The side of the vessel melted away, creating an entrance. As they approached, Alex hesitated. Last chance to back out, he muttered to himself. Is that what you want? Lyra asked, her opalescent eyes studying him. Alex took a deep breath. No. Let's go. The interior of the ship was surprisingly spacious, with surfaces that curved seamlessly into one another. What looked like control panels pulsed with light in patterns Alex couldn't decipher. In the center was something resembling a pool of liquid silver. You should prepare yourself, Lyra advised. Interstellar travel can be disorienting for first-timers. Before Alex could ask what she meant, Lyra guided him toward the silver pool. This will protect you during transit. Wait, we're going into that? It's a stabilization medium, she explained. It will buffer your body against the quantum stresses. With surprising strength, Lyra lifted him as if he weighed nothing and gently lowered him into the pool. The substance felt cool but not wet, enveloping him like a supportive cocoon. Lyra slipped in beside him, her body close to his in the confined space. Close your eyes, she instructed softly. And try to clear your mind. Alex complied, feeling the strange material rise to cover his entire body except for his face. Beside him, Lyra began to hum, a complex melody that seemed to resonate with the ship itself. What happened next defied description. Alex felt a sensation of falling and flying simultaneously. His body seemed to stretch and compress, while his mind experienced flashes of places he'd never seen, alien landscapes, vast nebulae, the cold depths between stars. Colors beyond the human spectrum flooded his consciousness. Through it all, Lyra's presence anchored him. Her hand found his within the silver medium, her touch a tether to reality as they hurtled through impossible space. When Alex finally opened his eyes again, the silver substance was receding. Lyra helped him sit up, her touch gentle but firm. We've arrived, she said simply. Alex's legs wobbled as Lyra helped him from the pool. His body felt strange, lighter, as though gravity had loosened its grip. How long were we traveling? He asked, his voice raspy. In objective time? Approximately 14 of your hours. Subjectively? Lyra made that head-tilting gesture. That varies among individuals. The side of the vessel dissolved again, revealing a world that stole Alex's breath away. They had landed on a vast platform extending from a mountain face. Below stretched a city unlike anything on Earth, structures that seemed to grow from the landscape rather than being built upon it. Spires of crystalline material reached toward a sky where two suns hung, one blue-white and pulsing erratically, the other smaller and golden. The air smelled of unfamiliar spices and something metallic. In the distance, creatures that might have been birds but looked more like living ribbons soared between the structures. "Welcome to Celestia," Lyra said, a hint of pride in her voice. As they descended from the platform, other Celestians approached. They resembled Lyra in their basic form, tall, slender, with that same translucent, patterned skin, but with subtle variations in coloration and the flowing patterns beneath their surface. One stepped forward, distinguished by elaborate patterns that seemed to radiate from the center of its chest. When it spoke, the language was like liquid music. Lyra responded in the same tongue before turning to Alex. "This is Nyx, High Counselor of Celestia. She welcomes you and expresses gratitude for your willingness to help." Alex attempted a respectful nod. "Tell her I'm honored, though I'm not sure how much help I'll actually be." After Lyra translated, Nyx approached and placed her hands on either side of Alex's face. The touch sent a tingling sensation through his entire body. "What is she doing?" Alex whispered. "Granting you our language," Lyra explained. "It's faster than teaching you conventionally." Suddenly, Alex's mind buzzed with new information, words, concepts, grammatical structures flooding his consciousness. "The process will complete as you sleep," Lyra said, supporting him as he swayed. "Which you should do soon. Your body needs to adjust to our world." As they led him toward one of the organic structures, Alex gazed up at the unstable sun pulsing in the alien sky. The star that threatened this beautiful civilization was even more terrifying in person, a cosmic time bomb counting down. "I hope you brought me here in time," he said quietly. Lyra's expression turned solemn. "So do we, Alexander Harlow. So do we." Alex woke in a chamber that seemed to breathe with him. The walls pulsed with gentle bioluminescence, brightening as he stirred. He touched his throat, surprised to find words and sounds in his mind that hadn't been there before. Nyx's gift of language integration had worked. 3 days had passed since his arrival on Celestia. Most of that time had been spent in recovery, as his human physiology adjusted to the slightly different atmospheric composition and gravitational pull. Lyra had been a constant presence, explaining aspects of Celestian culture and technology between his periods of rest. "You're awake," Lyra's voice came from the doorway. "How do you feel?" "Better," Alex replied, surprised to hear himself speaking in the musical language of the Celestians. "The headache is gone." "Good. The council is waiting. It's time to show you the problem in detail." Lyra led him through corridors that curved organically, passing other Celestians who regarded the human with undisguised curiosity. Alex had learned that his presence represented the first diplomatic contact between their worlds, a fact that added considerable pressure to his already daunting task. They entered a vast chamber where a dozen Celestians stood around a large spherical projection, a detailed model of their binary star system. At the center of the group stood Nyx, her patterns glowing more intensely than the others. "The human is here," she announced as Alex entered. "Alexander Harlow, these are our leading astrophysicists." One of the scientists, introduced as Orion, gestured to the projection. "We've been monitoring the quantum fluctuations in our primary star. The instability is accelerating." The projection zoomed in on the larger, pulsing star. Alex could see chaotic energy patterns erupting from its surface, patterns that defied everything he knew about stellar physics. "We've attempted to stabilize it using gravitational anchors," another scientist named Vega explained, "but the quantum nature of the fluctuations makes them resistant to conventional approaches." Alex studied the projection, watching the erratic pulses. Something about the pattern nagged at him, a familiarity he couldn't place. Can you show me the data over time? Not just the current state, but how it's evolved since the instability began. The scientists exchanged glances before complying. The projection shifted to show a time-lapse of the star's behavior over the past year. Alex watched intently, his astronomer's eyes trained to spot patterns in seeming chaos. There, he said suddenly. Stop and reverse. Slow it down at the 37-day mark. The projection responded to his command, revealing a subtle but distinct pattern in the fluctuations. It's not random, Alex murmured. The pulses are following a degrading harmonic sequence. Like a vibration that's losing its organizing principle. He turned to the scientists. Your star isn't dying, it's resonating improperly with its companion. The binary system has fallen out of harmonic balance. The chamber fell silent as the Celestian scientists processed his observation. It was Nix who spoke first. How could we have missed this? We've been studying these stars for millennia. Because you're too close to it, Alex suggested. Sometimes fresh eyes see patterns that experts miss precisely because they know too much. It's a human phenomenon we call beginner's mind. Lyra stepped forward. If Alexander is right, can the resonance be corrected? Orion manipulated the projection, running calculations. Theoretically, yes. If we could create a counter-resonance pattern to cancel out the destructive interference. Like tuning a musical instrument, Alex said. You need to restore the harmonic relationship between the two stars. For the next several hours, Alex worked alongside the Celestian scientists, applying Earth astronomy's understanding of binary star dynamics in ways the Celestians hadn't considered. His human intuition, combined with their advanced technology, began to yield results. By nightfall, they had designed a network of quantum resonators, devices that could be positioned around the unstable star to gradually correct its harmonic relationship with its companion. It could work, Vega acknowledged, her patterns flaring with excitement. The mathematics support the theory. Nix approached Alex, her opalescent eyes studying him intently. You've accomplished in hours what our scientists couldn't in years. Why? Alex shrugged. Humans are pattern recognizers. We evolved to see connections that might not be obvious. Sometimes those connections are real, sometimes they're not, but when they are, it can lead to breakthrough thinking. The deployment will take 7 days, Orion announced. If successful, the star should begin stabilizing within 14 days after that. Alex felt Lyra's hand on his shoulder, her touch sending that now familiar warmth through his body. You've given us hope, she said softly. Later, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the city, watching the two suns setting, one stable, one flickering erratically, Alex realized how invested he'd become in saving this world. What happens after? He asked. If it works? Lyra turned to him, her patterns glowing more intensely than he'd seen before. That depends on what you want, Alexander Harlow. What I want? Yes, she said, moving closer. Will you return to Earth, or might you consider staying longer? There is much our worlds could learn from each other. The question hung in the air between them as the alien twilight deepened around them, and Alex found himself considering possibilities he never could have imagined just days ago. 21 days had passed since the deployment of the quantum resonators. Alex stood on the highest observation platform in the Celestian capital, watching the primary sun with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Beside him, Lyra maintained her characteristic stillness, though the patterns beneath her translucent skin flowed more rapidly than usual, a sign of anxiety Alex had learned to recognize. The fluctuations are less severe today, he noted, squinting at the blue-white star. The harmonics seem to be stabilizing. Yes, Lyra agreed. Orion's latest measurements show a 37% reduction in quantum instability. The resonators are working. Relief washed over Alex. Over the past weeks, he had grown increasingly attached to this alien world, its ethereal architecture, its sophisticated yet harmonious society, and most particularly, to Lyra herself. Their connection had deepened during their shared mission. What began as professional respect had evolved into something more complex. Cultural differences remained vast, yet they had found unexpected common ground in their shared curiosity about the universe. "The High Council is convening this evening," Lyra said, turning to face him. "They wish to honor you before preparations begin for your return journey." The words landed like a stone in Alex's stomach. "My return. Your mission is complete, Alexander. You fulfilled your promise." Lyra's voice carried a nuance of emotion that transcended the differences in their species. "Unless you have reason to stay longer?" Alex gazed out at the alien city that had become strangely familiar. On Earth, 3 weeks would have passed, his colleagues would have questions about his sudden disappearance, his research would be gathering dust, his apartment sitting empty. Yet the thought of leaving Celestia, leaving Lyra, created an unexpected hollowness in his chest. "What would it mean if I stayed?" he asked quietly. Lyra's patterns pulsed with intensity. "No human has ever lived among us. There would be adjustments. Biological considerations. Cultural integration challenges. But it would be possible?" "Yes," she said simply. "There is precedent for interspecies exchange in our history, though not with beings as distant from us as humans." Alex turned his gaze back to the stars. "And what about us, Lyra? This connection between us, is that something that exists only in my imagination?" Lyra moved closer, her tall form casting a shadow over him in the light of the setting suns. "It is not imagined. Our species express it differently, but the resonance between minds, what you might call affinity or attachment, transcends biological differences." She extended her hand, and Alex took it. The familiar warmth spread through his fingers, up his arm, and throughout his body, a sensation he had come to crave. "There is a third option," Lyra said. "One that honors both worlds. I'm listening. Become our ambassador. The first official bridge between Earth and Celestia. You would divide your time between worlds, 6 months on Earth, sharing selected knowledge of our civilization, preparing your people for eventual formal contact. 6 months here, helping us understand humanity better." Alex considered the proposal. "An interstellar commuter?" "A bridge builder," Lyra corrected. "Few could adapt as you have, Alexander. Your mind is both scientifically rigorous and intuitively flexible, rare qualities that both our civilizations value." That evening, Alex stood before the High Council. Nyx and 7 other Celestian leaders formed a semicircle around him, their patterns synchronized in a formal display. "Alexander Harlow of Earth," Nyx began, "you came to us as a consultant. You leave us as a savior of our world and, perhaps, as a herald of a new relationship between our civilizations." The formal ceremony continued as the council bestowed upon him the title of Harmonizer, a rare honor among Celestians. But it was what came after, in Lyra's private chambers, that truly marked the beginning of something unprecedented. "I've made my decision," Alex told her as they stood together beneath a ceiling that rippled with constellations from both their skies. "I accept the ambassador role. I'll be the bridge." Lyra's patterns flared with a brightness he had never seen before. "Our worlds will be better for it," she said, moving closer. "As will we." Their connection had evolved beyond professional or even friendly boundaries, into something neither human literature nor Celestian philosophy had quite defined. What existed between them was new, a harmony of differences rather than similarities. As Alex prepared for his first return to Earth, a journey that would begin the next day, he realized that his life would never be ordinary again. He would carry the secrets of an advanced civilization, the responsibility of guiding humanity toward its cosmic neighbors, and the experience of a connection that transcended species. When I return, he promised Lyra as the alien night enveloped them, we'll begin building that bridge in earnest. Until then, she replied, her hand finding his in the darkness, I will monitor the stars, watching for your signal. Outside, the once unstable sun pulsed with newfound regularity, its harmonics restored by human intuition and alien technology working in concert, a fitting metaphor for the future that now stretched before them, spanning two worlds and the vast distance between. Retry.